A lot of you guys requested me to model this sci-fi turret after my, most recent video on the workflow from picture to AI to Blender. And if you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it. It's a cool video. So like I said, a lot of you guys wanted me to model this, so that's what we're gonna be doing in this video. Now we're gonna be talking a bit about this concept first, and I'll show you a really cool trick, so stay around. And then we're gonna be also kind of using a few references for maybe a few bits and pieces here and there for some Q ideas, etc. These pictures as well I took, so this is kind of like on the side of my screen, right? And here what I want to show you is something really interesting. This is a really cool way of learning how to get better at understanding and using references, which is really important if you want to get better at 3D, okay? So you see that we have this shape here from, it's in a ChatGPT spec from Dolly, and there's a lot of detail, right? There's a lot of detail, and the detail is very distracting. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop a layer here, and what you can do is, what I would suggest you do, is grab a brush, right? And paint over all this nonsense that is simply, tertiary detail. This is going to clean up, this model really nicely. And once you finish cleaning this up, right, you're going to end up with something like this. And this is going to help you understand the form better. And understanding the form is really important because it's going to give you this ability to juggle with shapes. You're not going to be focusing on detail, which is really distracting, right? This is really distracting. It's just too much going on. Now you're seeing blocks of shape. It's so important to understand this because that will help you to come up with better blockouts and understand forms better, okay? It's simply cleaner. So again, just a tip, but I would suggest highly you do that, and you can do it with all the parts here, and it's gonna make it a bit easier to understand what you're supposed to be doing, okay? All right, so we got this turret here. This is the AI spit. Let's put it in the middle. It doesn't really matter that much. And we're going to overlay just some main things on top of it, okay? So let's just grab a cube, and obviously I'm gonna be using hard ups and box cutter because tempo's fugitive. But if you are new to Blender and you're still struggling with all the basics and all that, then I would highly recommend you grab our course, the Hard Surface Accelerator, which is gonna teach you all the basics. The link is in the video description, right? And here we're going to make this a bit wider, but not too wide. Shift D this in here, scale this in, because I want to create these shapes, and that's actually fine. We can extend it here a little bit, so GY and move it here, right? And then we're gonna mirror this to the other side. And I'm using add-ons, hard ups and box cutter, obviously, because it's faster. And we have a course for this one too. It's fantastic. It's going to teach you how to work 8 times faster with Blender and add-ons, which is called the Ultimate Guide to Hard Ups and Box Cutter. So if you want to learn how to model properly and really quickly, efficiently, grab it. Link in the video description as well. 40 divides here. Let's just scale this down, drop it down here. And education is so important, it's so important that you can't really underestimate the importance of education, because it's gonna save you so much time in the long term. I mean, it depends on education, obviously, but let's just go to local. Come on. What the hell? There we go. The 4.5, I'm working with 4.5, the most recent Blender. It's a bit sluggish. I don't know what's going on, but did you guys notice that? It's a little bit kind of, I had like a lot of booleans in my scene at some point, and it was just kind of saying no to me, you know what I mean? I don't know, anyone noticed that? Send me a comment in the comment section, see if a lot of you guys noticed that. I don't know, it's like lagging, sluggish, it's like jittery sometimes, weird. Something is not right with this 4.5. They messed up something again. Now here in the bottom, what we're gonna do is Shift DZ, and I want to keep this really simple, right? You want to keep the forms really simple, because I don't really know exactly what I want to do here in the bottom yet, right? So I ain't gonna be doing anything crazy here. Let's just create a basic shape here to like a placeholder. And honestly, this is all I would need this blockout for. I would just nuke it right now and move it to the side. That's all. That's all I need, right? Because the rest I can just work with, you know, looking at this 3D model and also looking at the reference. And to be honest, the reference is much better than the model. It's cleaner. The reference is a little bit messed up. You know, this is kind of like a weird mirror here on the back. It was trying to reconstruct whatever was in the back, and it didn't really do a good job. You know, it's trying to kind of make things up on the go, and it just looks like shit. So yeah, we're not gonna be really using it that much, but we're gonna be kind of, you know, taking some cues from this. Okay, cool. So let me just save this, and we can move on, right? And I'm gonna run power save because obviously we need that. Cool. So now, first thing what you want to do in a situation like this, when you just laid out the main blockout, what you want to do is you want to decide on the proportions and general shapes of the main structure, right? And the main structure, the main feature of this turret obviously is at the top. So we need to focus on the middle part first, right? And I really like this kind of like, you know, slopey. Let me just put this here in a corner because I really want to see that. That's actually pretty cool. I mean, you need to see this. I have it in my head, but it's better you see that, okay? What I'm talking about, so you can understand what I'm talking about. So what I really like is this kind of a slopiness here, this kind of like a chamfery front. It looks aggressive and military-like. The bottom is kind of softening the blow because it looks a bit like a rodent face, do you know what I mean? And it's kind of funny, it's kind of cute, but the top is kind of aggressive. I like that. So we're definitely gonna keep that. So let's apply scale because reasons, and let's just run a chamfer here, and obviously we could, you know, manipulate with the chamfer whichever way we wanted to. And in fact, maybe 45 degrees is not the answer. What we could do is go with n-gon and set it to 5 degrees or 15 degrees. I think 5 is fine, and make it a bit more flat, you know, like this, right? And then what we could do, we could follow or echo this angle around the mesh, right? And if you want to change it, or, you know, hold control and you can snap it to angles and make it a little bit, you know, a little bit more steep than 45. Okay, 45 is a bit boring because it's kind of in the middle, right? It's literally in the middle between 0 and 90. So if you think about it, it's kind of a symmetrical angle, dead in the middle. So if you offset it slightly to one side, it's getting a bit more interesting and dynamic. Yes, it's a small change, but it's important. Now, what you want to do is you want to mimic that in other areas. So instead of doing this with an n-gon, it's going to be much easier to do it with a quad. So watch this, right? If I'm going to grab a regular quad cutter and shift click this, right, and move it in here, let me just scale this, okay, and move this down and rotate it like this, right? Now what I can do, you see, is I can duplicate the cutter like this, and I can use the top edge to cut other things, like for example this bottom here, and this bottom here could follow exactly the angle of the front. Do you see what I mean? So it's very useful, right? So difference, and simply move this cutter, you know, to the side, right? And now we got this kind of a angle mimicking, you know, the angle in the front, right? Which is really important, and that's gonna be your shape echoing. Okay, so that's 1. 2, what we're going to do is we're going to run a scale here, and we're going to run a chamfer on this to sort of continue with the design language of chamfers. So it's going to be not as round and supple, but it's going to be more of a aggressive and kind of an edgy look to it, right? So we're sort of re-emphasizing, you know, the design language by adding these, yeah? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually leave it. I want to do a cut here in this area, but at the moment I'm going to leave it alone. And let's just move on. Cool. Now we could fix the shading here by Q, sharpen, and moving this to the right to fix the auto smooth angle, so we can see this, you know, angle better here. Now let's recover the cutter here, right? So now watch this. If I'm going to grab this cutter, right, and I'm going to flip it, so Shift D, and I'm going to Alt X, and I'm going to use a flip for the mirror. So you go to modifier, where is it here? I can't see it. Flip, okay, and I'm going to flip it, right? And you see what I told you about Blender? Look at this shit. It crashed on me, and it's 4.5. Yeah, and all the add-ons are updated, so I don't think it's an add-on issue. I've never seen this message before, so this is something really messed up. So fuck it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run with Blender 4.4 because 4.5 is garbage. So let's pop this autosave here, there we go. So autosave is so good, man. Now we need to save it again and run another autosave just to be safe, okay? So we're gonna be running file number 3, and then I'm gonna pop an autosave on top of it. So autosave, good. All right. So yeah, what I want to do now is I want to grab this cutter, right? This cutter, and I want to Shift D that, and I want to mirror it across this shape, right? So I'm gonna have a cutter on the bottom, right? And I'm going to apply the mirror, and I'm going to, I'm going to nuke the shape on the top. So I'm just gonna press L. Actually, this will not work. I'm going to press B and select all these and nuke all these vertices, and I'm gonna be left with the shape on the bottom, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so this one in short. So now I'm gonna have an angle on the bottom which is gonna be following the same angle as the one on the top. Do you see what I mean? So now I can create something like this, and this one is looking cool. Now we could make it a bit more steep, but I think this is fine. I don't want to go too aggressive on this one because when I'm gonna lift this up, it's gonna be looking a bit feeble. So this is good. Now same here in the back. What we could do is simply duplicate this and create another cut here. What we could do, we could kind of mimic the angle here, and also the sort of the depth of the cut. I think is going to be looking quite interesting. Okay, this is looking quite interesting. Let's fix the auto smooth here. Boom, there we go. And now we can start playing with bevels. So let's add a tiny bevel here. If this happens to you with hard ups, press 1 to change the profile and you're good to go. You want to make this bevel really tiny because this is kind of a mechanical element, and the smaller the bevel, the more machined it's going to look, right? So you want that. Let me just fix this here too. There we go, that's better. And white and normals, right? Boom. All right, peachy. So we're good to go, right? And that looks really cool. I like this. Now here we're going to inset this, right, to a certain degree, and extrude it, right? And we're gonna create this kind of an inside here of this turret, of this launcher. And we technically could add some cylinders, or Y90, oh sorry, IZ90, there we go. And let's just pop them here, right? And then array them. Let's just actually apply scale. You always want to apply scale before you array, otherwise you're going to be in a world of pain when you want to cut them or do anything with them. Normally hard ups and box cutter apply scale automatically, but it's only on booleans. So press A here for secondary array, and we're going to do that. Now we're going to make this a little bit smaller. You can do it in edit mode, and I think this is going to look good. Maybe it's too small, something like that. And then let's move them, make them larger like this, and we're gonna make them flush with the surface here, okay? More or less, right? You don't have to be super accurate, but more or less. Or maybe even slightly sticking out. It's gonna look kind of cool. And then let's create the maybe a bit of a chamfer here, right? Let's just apply scale. And boom, right? And some bevel on it, obviously small one, right? Let me just see that. Cool, white and almost peachy. And we're gonna mirror this to the other side, right? So we got that sorted. And now what I want is I want to continue with this idea of a chamfer. Now I'm not a great fan, all right, of running chamfers like this. Okay, you see this here, this corner. I always like to have a little bit of a bevel, so when I'm running a chamfer, right, let me just apply this. So operation smart apply. When I'm running a chamfer here like this, right, I'm not really crazy about this corner here. What I do is I run the bevel first and then run the chamfer to make it a little bit a little bit softer. But in this case I might actually go ahead and run a proper chamfer on this entire structure here. So do something like this, and we're going to mirror to this to the other side. Now this could be a little bit too shallow. Maybe we need this to be a little bit wider. And I think, hang on, let me apply scale here too. Maybe that's better. We could use actually the mesh machine here with Alt X. It's a very powerful tool. How are we looking? Yeah, we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty good. And now we can actually run, run this opening here. If you run it from a lower perspective, it's going to be more aggressive. It's going to be like a low mouth. Because as humans, we always look for faces in shapes, a reflection of ourselves. So like when you look at the trash can with the two openings and a gap, it looks like a human face, right? So if I'm going to run it higher, it's going to look less intimidating. If you're going to run it lower, it's going to be way more intimidating. So I'm going to run it lower, and I'm going to run an inset cut. So I mean inset boolean, tap X a few times to access the inset boolean, press T to adjust the thickness of the solidification. Here we need to fix this angle a bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, that's better. Cool. So now let's apply this, and I'm gonna run another cut here like this, right, with a knife. And we're going to mirror this with mesh machine again, so it's going to be in the middle. I just want to grab this element and shift curve extract. In fact, you know what, we could run another loop here, grab this entire thing. Let me see that. We could control curve extract this, or yeah, control curve extract this to rip this off. Go to local. And I'm going to collapse these two, right? So collapse them and clean mesh, right? Boom. And now I can actually solidify this outside. So modify solidification and solidified outside like this, right? That's what I want. So since we have a bevel here, right? Already running a bevel on this here. You see that? There's a bevel here. And we need a secondary bevel, so what you want to do is control click on bevel, which is going to add secondary bevel. Now if I'm going to apply this, I think the first bevel is going to get applied as well, which is not necessarily what I want. I might nuke this actually and make it less beveled. There we go. Apply the solidification and chamfer this. That's better. And run auto smooth and weighted normals. Okay, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So that's that. Now we need the sides, right? So the sides, what we could do is grab this one and rip it off. So shift curve extract, right? And we could bring it higher here like this. Okay, and slightly back. So let's just go to local with these two shapes. Select this one and move it backwards here. There we go. And also I want to move this one backwards. I need to move it. Oh, wait a minute, this is going to be difficult. We could always cut this deeper here. Yeah, let's move it back and we're going to recut this, So let's go back. Let's just go to Alt H and Shift 2. Grab one of these cutters and Shift D that and run it here. Okay, difference. So want to snatch this one here, and I'm gonna bring it higher. So we're gonna remove the sandwiching here. You're gonna have a different thickness of these layers because otherwise it's gonna look boring. This one in the on the bottom here too could be either longer or shorter. I think shorter might be better. So let's just run a cut here like this. That looks much better, much neater. You want to avoid sandwiching and you want to avoid creating surfaces. They're going to be more or less of the same thickness. It's very boring. It's called sandwiching. And visually it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? You want to fall asleep and you're looking at this shit. So modify, solidify. Now we're going to have to solidify it the other way. So what I would do is move it in here and simply mirror to the other side like that, right? And there we go. Let me see this. I think it's pretty cool. Okay. Now, what I would normally do is, hang on a second, there is some kind of a Boolean here. We just need to make sure that it's actually going through, right? So there we go, like that. That's what I wanted. Sorry, my bad. And this is fine. This could be something here in the back, maybe some kind of like, you know, vent or some such, you know what I mean? Like here. I think it's gonna look pretty badass. So we could do that. We could have some kind of a chamfer on the top. So let's just apply this, right? We could have a chamfer here on the top. Just a little bit like that. I think it's gonna be interesting. And, you know, that's pretty good. That's pretty, now we could technically mimic the angle here. If you really, you know, were to go completely anal on it. Also, this angle here, oh, it's, never mind, it's a turret in the back. That one's confusing. I'm gonna hide it because it's confusing me. Yeah, this angle here could be a little bit done a bit better. So let's go to Alt H and Shift 2, and let's just Shift D this one and do something like this. So difference, and we want to slash this, right? And let's see that. Yeah, that's better. You see, like the consistency of these angles is gonna really make a difference, right? So let's put this one in a different collection. Let's put it in collection base or something, whatever, right? And just, you know, nuke it for now, okay? We don't need to see that shit. So now what I could do is combine these two together. I think it's gonna be all right to merge them. So, you know, Boolean, just make sure that there is no bevel on this one. You don't want to use a cutter or Boolean with a bevel on, because you're gonna end up in a world of pain, because bevel will be applied on top of the other bevel, right? So you wanna make sure that the Boolean you're using doesn't have a bevel on. You follow? Smart. Is the basics of, you know, modeling. Again, if you don't know the basics, grab the hard surface accelerator because it will teach you the basics. There is some beef in here. Let's just align it. That didn't work. What the hell is going on here? Let's just nuke this. Let me just grab these two, and yeah, that's fine. F. That is not straight. I wonder why. Okay, maybe this is flipped. This could be a flip geometry, you know. It looks like flip geometry. So let's select everything and Alt-N and recalculate outside. That wasn't the issue. Fascinating. Let's align all the verts then to the bottom. Did that fix the problem? No. I think the issue here is the bevel angle, okay? So the bevel doesn't catch all the edges correctly because of the angle. So watch this. We're gonna clean that from all the mark sharps. We're gonna go to Control tilde, and we're gonna go to sharpening shading. We're gonna remove all this nonsense and keep B weight, which is bevel weight. We're gonna run this on all the edges and see if we're missing any edges. We're also gonna clean the mesh. All the edges, this one is missing here, so let's mark this. And then let's shift this from angle to weight, and boom, magic happens. That was the problem, right? We do need these to be marked as well. These weren't caught, and this is gonna fix the issue completely. There you go, now it's clean. So if your shading is bonkers, you know, going bonkers, and you don't know what the hell is going on, it's a good chance your bevel is not really catching all the edges correctly because of the angle. So you gotta, you know, choose a different method. Now remember, when you're gonna cut this mesh with a Boolean, you're gonna have the same problem. So now here we're gonna split this this edge here, right? So, you know, chamfer it, and we're gonna align it with this cut. So Alt R, and I'm gonna be using edge constraint from Machine Tools, and this is Deus Ex version, and then I'm gonna be using Y in face mode with Mesh Machine, and I'm gonna go to chamfer width, and let me see if I can do this actually. Press R, there we go, press R, and you can make the chamfer wider. Now, you don't want to make this chamfer super wide, that's going to be exactly the same width as the other one, but you know, we want to make sure that it's either wider or slightly wider, maybe something like this. Also Alt R and just make sure that more or less it follows this angle and copy, and I think it's gonna be a bit better. There we go. Now another thing we could do, we could grab these and lift them a bit up, yeah, so GZ, you know, and move them up a bit, and you know, Bob's your uncle, right? We could kind of follow with the bevel here. It's one for the profile and peachy, and you see that creates kind of like a nice face-like structure here too. We're gonna run sharpen, and we obviously gonna have to run a bevel here, otherwise it will not work. These two can be nuked, they don't contribute to anything. Copy to the other side and it should be peachy. Cool. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna switch the bevel to weight. So let's go to bevel and switch to weight, and this should flex all the issues and problems, right? Perfect. Let's see that. Let's just, you know, power save it. And how we're looking pretty cool. See, like now how this face being lower, it looks aggressive. It's pretty bloody cool, right? If I went higher, it would look more soft and sort of rodent-like here. You see that? If you didn't have this, look at this. I'll show you in Photoshop, right? So if this bot, right, just had this bottom cut and didn't have this cut, right, it would look much more aggressive, right? Much more aggressive, you know? Do you see what I mean? Much more aggressive now, right? So now here what we could do is we could just run cuts, you know, here on top of this. Now remember, when you do that, you're gonna be introducing cuts that will have to be fixed in terms of shading, because now the bevel is bevel weighted bevel, right? So it runs on bevel weights, not on angle. So you will need to fix that, but we can do it in a minute. So let's just run cuts like that, and we're gonna have to, you know, resharpen this, unfortunately, and rerun all these beveled edges here, GG, and move this forward to create something like this. It's going to be much more interesting, I think. And maybe this is too deep, you know, so we could just use Alt S and bring it up on normals, right? Maybe this one could be moved deeper. There we go, GG, and then press C, so you can move it inwards. Allow that, right? We could even align this, you know, here, this edge to this edge. So go to side here, grab this one and align it to this one. There we go, Alt A and left, boom, right? And you're gonna have a perfect, you know, face there. Maybe it's a bit too shallow because the bevel is not catching fully the area, but yeah, there you go. Now it's better. Mirror to the other side and you're good to go. And you're gonna have to repeat the you know, re-add these bevel weights here because you're gonna lose them, unfortunately. And there you go, that looks cool. I see, that looks mean, right? That looks mean, you see what I mean? Like a proper mean turret, yeah? And then we're gonna have some fun on the top, you know, we could always have some fun here. Now, this one could be chamfered in the same way as the sides, maybe slightly larger bevel, right here. And I think it's gonna look pretty cool. Now let's focus on the back here. So on the back, on the turrets itself. What we could do is first of all run a slice here. This is gonna help us kind of separate these, you know, here a little bit, right? Now what we could do also, we could create these main cuts here in the middle. So that's actually quite cool. I like that. So we could run a cut in the back here like this, right? Follow this cut here in the bottom and go down. So let's just try this one more time. Let's go maybe from here, go down here along the edge and down like this and see what happens. Slice that, that's nice. And then we're gonna have this element here in the middle, right? So, you know, run a cut here for this, whatever it is, right? And maybe chamfer it, right? And we're going to extend these to the back, right? And I think it's gonna look pretty cool. Now this cut should be managed slightly better. So let me just have a scroll this, and let's go Alt Z, B, and select this one and move it up a bit. So somewhere here. And I think we're gonna be good. It's kind of cool, not gonna lie. Okay. Now we got some beef in here. But that's basically the connection of the Boolean. I have a video on this, on, you know, Boolean management, so watch it, because I think this is the issue. So watch this. If I run a knife here, right, it's probably gonna save the problem. Boom. See that? So Blender, what it did, it most likely, I guarantee you this, it created connection from here all the way here, right? I can, you know, let's just check it for fun, okay? So let's uniquify this, right? And let me just apply this, right? Press multiply. Let me see that. Wait a minute, it's shifted. Interesting. Let me just apply this one here. Smart apply. See what I told you? I told you. I can smell it. You know what I mean? It's like a crazy chick. I can smell them and navigate around them to their sisters. Just a bit of a joke. Don't take it too seriously. All right, so let's just run a cut here. Perfect. And I really like it. And you see, like, I'm not going deeper on details because I'm still kind of building the main shape, right? But this is already looking pretty decent, right? This is already looking pretty decent. And you can sort of, you know, mirror or like echo what we have here on the back, because it's a sort of a similar design. Do you know what I mean? So what we could do here, we could actually create something asymmetrical, like some sort of, I don't know, ventilation thing here in the back. So we could do something like that, for example, and run it in. You don't have to even run all the way in, you know, this will do, right? And then we can create something in here, you know, out of this, right? So we could either grab the cut itself, or we could just grab the cutter. Watch this. So have a scroll, and then we're gonna grab the cutters. So go to settings and shift click on shade solid, and you're gonna be able to grab the cutter itself. And now what I can do, and I could, you know, slash this, right, here in the bottom, and, you know, just nuke that. And let's just apply this sharpen. And we're gonna have to adjust the bevel. Hang on a second, one more time. Let me just operations multiply. There we go. And then, you know, run the bevel on top of this. Wait a minute, this bevel is, oh yeah, this one. Let's apply it. Let's run the bevel on top of this, maybe a smaller one. And we could run a chamfer here. So Control B. We need to clean this. 3 to clean it. There we go. And run a chamfer here. We can now eyeball this, you know, Alt R. You could hold Control. It's gonna snap to by 5 degrees, which is really cool. And this could be sticking out a little bit out, you know, this could be sticking out a bit. Yes, so, you know, it could be something like that, right? And then, you know, this could be going inside here, right? Sort of, right? You know what I mean? So, boom, right? And you got this kind of an element here in the back that we could just do whatever we want with it. Some kind of like a, you know, I don't know, maybe, you know, let me just change it to weight, and there we go. We could make some kind of like a vent, you know. We could actually add cables here, you know, and link them to the main turret. This could be actually interesting, because I mean, they're gonna be moving up and down, so I mean, not the best idea, but this could be some kind of like a, you know, vent or whatnot here in the back, to just kind of, you know, cool off these, and then vent here on the side. Definitely, I want a vent here on the side, right? So this vent could be, it could be like 2 vents here, or 1 vent, or whatever, you know. But we can do this later. So yeah, there we go. So that's good. And now we got the base, and the base could be very simple. We don't have to overthink this, you know what I mean? So what I could do is kind of follow this chamfer idea here, right? So, you know, create a chamfer on the base. I think it's gonna be looking pretty cool and kind of stoutish. And then we could run, you know, these kind of supports here around this base as well. Not necessarily, but could be interesting. Drop this down here, and let's solidify it down. and then we're gonna you know, bevel these corners. So Shift Control B and bevel this, right? So we're gonna have this base here, and I think it's too big. If you're gonna make the base bigger, the turret is gonna look smaller. If you're gonna make the base smaller, the turret is gonna look more powerful, because it's gonna be towering this way, not this way. Do you see what I mean? So that's important. And then we just have to figure out the middle part, yeah? So let me see this. Okay. So this part, right? And this part could be really simple, okay? So what I'm thinking here is that what we could do is we could chamfer it this way, right? So let's apply the scale, chamfer it this way. I think it's gonna be interesting. And let's bevel this. Let me see this. Okay. And then we could link these two bases somehow. So let's just shift curve extract this here like this. Let's apply this. Let's scale this in. This could be interesting. Or we could make this one larger, which is going to kind of make this turret a bit more stoutish, yeah? You see that? If I'm going to thicken this element, it becomes more beefy, yeah? Kind of like a pissed off rodent. Like a rodent whose you know, whose cheese is missing. Do you know what I mean? Someone stole his cheese. Where's my fucking cheese? All right, so now here, let's grab this and Alt-M macro. So we're gonna have some kind of like a connector here. This could be a little bit lower. I mean, drop down. In fact, this could be drop down a bit. And what we could have here in between, some kind of a mechanism, you know? So we could do something like this, for example, right? And then we could even drop this one lower, right? So, you know, something like this, yeah? Which is pretty cool. Or lift it higher and create sort of, well, let me show you, right? Sort of a mechanism around. So grab just regular cubes, right? Scale them down. And just array them around. So apply scale, right? And then Q, and we can actually make them smaller. So smaller on X, right? Scale, and then go to mesh tools and control radial array. And we're gonna add a lot of them, right? Like this. And let's just go back and drop them down. Oh, come on. There we go. Drop them down. And let's bevel them. We could actually add more of them, right? Scale them in and up and hide this nonsense. How we looking? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And, you know, maybe even bevel this like this, right? And the bevel is too crazy, so we're gonna lower it down. Here too. And lower it down. Fix the profile. Maybe scale it up a bit, and there you go, right? So here what I would do, right? I would actually create this kind of a larger lip around it. So, you know, run something like this here, Alt-M macro, right? And then run a smaller one here in the middle, like this, right? Maybe lift it up a little bit. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. And obviously weighted normals, right? And we could have some kind of, you know, some kind of strengthening mechanism around here, you know. Not essential, but could be interesting. So something here, right? Make it smaller. And obviously larger here. Move it in. Just scale this and do something like this. Oh, this could be interesting. And drop them down. There we go, right? And you know, we could run this around if we wanted to, right? So I'm not gonna be even combining these together. We could, but it's gonna be an absolute bastard to do it, right? So I would not do that. Let's just cut this off here. So we can enjoy our life. There we go. And bring it a little bit closer. There we go. And oh, you know what? You could actually make it much wider like this. This could be also interesting. Something like that. That's actually pretty cool, not gonna lie. So yeah, I kind of like that. So we could change the angle here. If you go to Q bevel and hold Alt, you can actually change the angle of the bevel. And then let's see if we can actually rotate this around radial array. Oh, it's too many. We just need like 5, I would say. Let me see that. That's actually quite powerful, maybe too powerful. Or maybe we could do something like this. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I like that much better. I like that much better, right? And then we could just kind of, you know, rotate this in a way that's gonna be sort of symmetrical, you know what I mean? Or at least more or less symmetrical. There we go. I like that. Cool. So we can keep this. And let's just save it. So now we know we need to connect it to this middle part here, which for some reason disappeared. There we go. And let's just nuke these and work on this middle part here now. So this is a bit too large in terms of it's too long basically. It needs to be a little bit shorter on the front, I think, and maybe longer here. In fact, you know what we could do? We could use another of these cuts. I think it's gonna be looking cool. Hang on. So let's grab one of these, Shift D, and I think it's gonna be looking really cool. Difference here, right? There we go. Let me see this. I need to nuke these two cutters because they're fucking annoying. Cutters, there we go. Yeah, see, that looks really cool. I like that. I like that. So I like that a lot. From the side looks very cool. Although I'm not crazy about the same length of it, so what we could do is sort of shorten this somehow here. So Alt Z, grab this one and move it in, right? So it's kind of like that. How are we looking now? Oh, that's much better. That's much better. I still think this is a little bit too large. But maybe I'm overthinking. You know, this could be a little bit maybe shorter here. It's gonna look better from the side, I think. Yeah. See, now it's again going, you know, kind of outwards, right? And these fuckers need to be cut because they're too long. So they annoy me. Wait a minute, what the hell? See, that's what happens when you don't apply scale. Let's just Operation Smart apply this because I can't be, bothered to deal with this thing. And just cut this, right? And then we don't really need this nonsense here anymore. And honestly, I'm gonna apply this one too. Smart apply and nuke this nonsense because it's annoying. Cool. So we got that. And now we need to kind of connect them together. So there's an interesting connection here between these two. It's like a hinge, right? So we could do the same thing. So we could create, just let's grab a cube here and let's expand this here. And I want a gap here for sure. So I could actually cut this with a cutter, right? So we could just grab an end gun and run a cut here. Let me just switch it to a cut. All right, and in fact, yeah, we could reuse these cutters. So Shift D and run a cut here. Difference, right? And then we going to cut it manually. So let's go here, and there's something really wrong with this box cutter recently. It's just switching modes all the time. I don't know what the hell is going on, man. Something like this, maybe. Let me see this and put it on the side. This could be interesting. Let's bevel this. And this could be bevel, chamfered, sorry. Interesting. The bevel is too large. Okay, I like that. Let's mirror this. Cool. So we got these shoulders. In fact, what we could do is chamfer this one too and lower the bevel to make it more mechanical. And then we could slice it here. So let's just grab that and slice it. What the fuck, bro? See that? Just keep switching, man. It's really annoying. Let's just recover this, make it larger. There we go. How are we looking? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, cool. That's actually nice. And now we can, make them larger, right? So G, X, and move them in. And we can cut them from here. So we can, we can cut them here like... Motherfucker. Here. And that's a flip normal for sure, right? So operations multiply. And then we're gonna flip normals. There we go. How are we looking? Why this is not shading properly? What in the hell is going on here? That's a flat face, so what the hell is going on? Weighted almost on the bottom. Oh yeah, the angle isn't catching. Fair enough. So angles. See, now this is not another problem where the angle is just not catching the bevel. So again, we need to sharpen everything and switch bevel to weight, and it's gonna be fine, right? And maybe it's a little bit too crazy, this bevel, so just make it a bit smaller, and I think it's gonna be fine. And that's that. Now the turret doesn't have to move up and down like here, because the turret's gonna be rotating on this, and D is gonna be moving, basically up and down, right? Because we're gonna add a rotary mechanism in here. So Shift D, and we can just run this one here, right? And just bevel this, right? And chamfer it here. Okay, and we need to move it backwards, so, and mirror this, right? There we go. And that's how they're gonna be rotating. And you could add some stuff there, obviously, if you wanted to. This bevel is too huge, right? So we could, I don't know, just grab this one and, curve extract, whatever. And we could simply rotate it around the cursor, right? So, move cursor to select it, scale it on cursor, right? It's very easy. Something like that. And then mesh tools, and you go with radial array, and you create this kind of a thing, and just add the bevel, right? Let me just apply this. You can nuke this nonsense, and then bevel. And boom, right? And then mirror this. And Bob your uncle, right? And you got that. And here we could have some kind of thickening effect, just very thin. So it's gonna look really cool. Alt here macro, boom, right? See what I mean? Could even move it a little bit, you know, a little bit deeper here and that. And for the shits and giggles, run the chamfer here too, right? It's gonna look really awesome. See that? Small stuff, you're probably only gonna be able to see that, but you know. And here in the bottom, we could simply borrow, you know, this here, and maybe flip it on X, not 90, RX 180, and drop it down, make it smaller on individual origins, Shift S into Geo, there we go, and you know, create another element there in the middle that's gonna fill this gap here more or less and create some sort of interest over there, right? Move it here in the middle, or more or less, and Bob your uncle, right? You don't have to do anything else there, it's fine. And then we got this side to take care of, right? So the side, I mean, this is already the 1 hour long tooth, but we could reuse certain elements, like for example, we could reuse this one and, you know, pop it in here. Let me see that. All right, pop it somewhere here. Change the bevel thickness to something less crazy, and we could have some fun with it. So maybe move it slightly further away. So here we could just, you know, make it a bit smaller and bring it somewhere here. And what we could do is run a loop here and scale this until it snaps and bring it in. That will do. Maybe a little bit bigger and maybe a narrower somewhere here, right? Cool. And we could just add some, you know, some stuff to it. So we could borrow this again. You can just keep borrowing elements, it's fine. You know what I mean? No one's gonna complain about it. And you could create some stuff here. And the rest could be done with decals. I think that's actually too much. Wait a minute, let me think. What we could do is maybe scale this one and chamfer that. And then create some sort of outlet like that. Maybe it's going to be more interesting. And on the side here too, we could have something on the top, which could be, you know, easy to do as well. So we could just Shift D this and rotate it, right? You could use inserts from Master Xeon. They are for Keytops, they're free. You can get them on Gumroad. Now here we could mimic the cuts on the top. They could be asymmetrical as well. So we could do something, for example, like this. It could be, I think, interesting. Boom, right? And you could just, you know, make this bevel maybe a little bit smaller, maybe even sharpen this and, you know, chamfer this element here just for fun to create a bit of a, you know, interest there, and create some sort of maybe cable going from here to the bottom. But you gotta be careful because remember, this is gonna be rotating, so maybe it would be better to run a cable from these to these. But again, this is gonna be rotating too, so you gotta be careful, right? You could do it with cablerator. You could do it with cablerator, right? And here too, like I said, I wouldn't mind some vents. So I mean, this could be done with decals, you know, but something here would be interesting. This could be following this area as well. Could be chamfered, could be straight. It's really, you know, up to you what you're gonna decide here. Could also be a cut. So I mean, cut could also be a chamfer here maybe. And we could then use shift curve extract to bring this plate up. So Control B here, and we could just align this with the bottom edge, right? So you can align with this one, echoes it, and then grab this and just clean this nonsense here. Why is it doesn't want to clean it? What the hell is this thing here? Control X. What the hell is this? Mirror to the other side and do it one more time. So Alt H, there we go, and you know, difference, there we go, and sharpen, there we go, and one more time, and Control B, right, and then again align it with Alt R. It's a really good tool. You can hold Control, and then, you know, Shift click on curve extract and add some bevels to it. So sharpen this, add some bevel to it, and you could create some stuff here inside, you know, something fun, right? Whatever, some sort of a vent, whatnot. This one, you see what happens when you have these incorrect Boolean connections? Look at this. This entire edge is being pulled. You see that? This entire bevel is being pulled. Look at this. That's because of this connection, right? The connection should be going perpendicular to all these edges. It's really important to understand this, okay? So what's going to happen here if I'm going to remove them? Then boom, sorted. So yeah, understanding this is so important. It's really important, okay? Here we got the mirror. There we go. And I think we're good. Yeah, so you could put some decals here or something, you know, some elements over there, and I think we're good to go. And the last thing, obviously, we need these, you know, these holes here, right, for the screws holding it. So G and move it here, and you know, boom, and then hold Shift and mirror to all sides. And then again, like I said, we could use the assets from, I don't have them in here, but you could use the assets from Master Xeon. We can reuse this one, Shift D, hold Control, and snap it here to the face. So let's align to face, align rotation, right? Align it here. Let's flip it 180. There we go. And you know, grab it in here. We could actually elongate it. I mean, I could create a proper screw, but you know, like this, right? I'm kind of tempted to actually use the insert. Hang on, I'm just gonna grab them. I can't be fucked making them. So here, I think this is installed here. There we go, these ones. So you can use them with free keytabs, and they're free as well, so you can grab them. It's so easy. So I'm just going to grab. Where are they? You can use this or this or these. This will work as well. We could grab these, right? At the insert and this one, right? So you scale this one down, move it in, boom, right? And you sort it. You know what I mean? Then you select all of it, copy objects, and you know, Bob's your uncle, right? And move them here. All we need to do is to remove all the mats because we don't need them. Move this up here, there we go, and just move it down. Also, I'm gonna cut it because really I don't need all this nonsense here, right? Just sharpen this and you know, bring it down. Let's just combine this into one shape and bevel it and nuke this nonsense and bring it in. We don't even need the holes, by the way, but yeah. And you want to, when you're gonna be moving them, you want to, you know, kind of misalign them slightly, you know what I mean? G, Shift Z, and move it in here. Come on. And just misalign them a little bit, and then you just copy to the other side, right? Boom. And there you go. There's your turret, right? Could still have some fun here. This could be done with, you know, with stream sheets as well. I think it's going to be better if you do it with stream sheets. You know, add some elements here, like cuts and grooves and whatnot, just to slice this shape into layers and kind of create, like, you know, segmentation, right? And again, we probably have to redo these front cuts because we lost them. Inset T for solidification, bring it up a bit, and we're good to go. Sharpen, and we will have to fix it, right? Because again, you know, these edges probably gonna be, actually no, they're fine. Interesting. That's cool. All right, so we're good. So there you go. This is gonna be it, and maybe you could just add some kind of like a, you know, some sort of like something on the top. Maybe like a panel that you can open, you know, maybe not on both sides, but on one side. We could do it on the other side. Since this one is on this side, we could kind of add like a maintenance panel here, asymmetrically like this, you know. It's gonna be interesting. So E and cut it in, and this one is mirrored, right? So we need to apply the mirrors. So operations multiply, right? And then let's just run a cut here like that. And X and B for bevel, right? And just apply this, and, you know, sharpen this, and you're good to go, right? And you got this panel here, you know, that you can access. It's gonna be like a maintenance panel here, boom, right? And on top of this, what we could do here on the back, we could actually borrow this element here again, so Shift D and slap it in here on top, R Y 180, and we could just borrow this element in the middle and Q and Shift Curve Extract and create like an antenna, whatnot. Let's just apply it and run a loop here, grab this one and scale it on Alt S. I can't see shit. Alt S. Whoa, okay, then hang on a second. E, cancel, Alt S, there you go. Okay. And obviously we need some bevel on it, so, you know, just a little bit of bevel. Don't overdo it. And you're good to go. And you got a, you know, cool. This could be a little bit bigger, thicker, whatever. You know. Maybe flatter. And you got yourself a turret. How are we looking? We're looking pretty good. And then all these elements here could be done with, you know, with decals and whatnot. You don't really need to create anything crazy, you know. And there you go. That's your turret. And this is how basically you can just kind of riff of shapes, and you see that we created something that's different, but it's also looking pretty badass. In fact, I prefer this one than this one, to be honest. Kind of have these shoulders, looks a bit more armored. It's really cool. Another thing you could do, you could add like an armor here in the front that's going to be protecting the rotary mechanism, you know, kind of like a shield here that's going to be rotating with the mechanism. So what we could do is, you know, grab these, right? And Shift Curve Extract them and move them somewhere here, make them larger, right? Run loop here, move it forward, bend it like this, right? And you got yourself a shield, you know. And this could be solidified a bit less, right? And just cut it on top on the bottom. So, you know, cut it here from the side. So cut it here, sharpen this, right? And, you know, bevel this, right? And you got yourself a shield that could be technically, you know, applied somewhere here like this, right? Like a shield that's gonna be in front of this, just started moving with it, right? So it's gonna protect it. And you could, you know, change the shape of it. You could also use the Hardops deform to play with this, or taper tool to play with this. But this is going to make it less kind of less interesting, in my opinion. I think this looks more badass. So yeah, It looks pretty dope. So there you go. That's how you create a cool model out of you know, a random reference outside. It's a really cool exercise, and it's good for your brain. And it could be a very interesting workflow, and you're gonna be able to create something very original, because you know, no one ever came up with anything like that, right? So it's kind of like a mixture of what you've seen, what you've imagined, what you've seen online, what the AI spot, and you kind of riff with it, and you're good to go. We should also probably add some missiles here in the middle. But anyway, you know, if you're interested in learning how to work with hardOps and box-cutter really quickly, and how to model in Blender very quickly, then really grab our course, The Ultimate Guide to hardOps and box-cutter, because it's going to teach you how to do it properly, and you know, it's gonna save you a ton of time on guesswork, which is you know, not the way you want to model. Because I see so many people saying, oh, you know, I've been trying many things, I've seen many tutorials, and none of them works for me, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. And the reason why you don't know what the hell you're doing is because you're watching either the wrong thing, or you're just focusing on the wrong thing. And you need a really structured, you know, where's this naming thing? You need a structured, there we go, structured content in order to understand what the hell you're doing. You need to have proper basics, you know, in order to really get what's happening, right? So let me just move this cursor here. Let me move this one to cursor. There we go. And it's going to be in the middle. Then we can run an array x and then a and x. There we go. And move them forward and mirror them. And Bob's your uncle. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.